Hello and welcome to our bite-sized Dvar Torah from this week's Parsha, which is, of course, Vayikra. And the Parsha starts off and it says, Vayikra Hashem el Moshe. And Hashem called to Moshe, V'yedaber Hashem alav, and Hashem spoke to him, Mi ohel moed. Excuse me, I'm a bit hoarse, just getting off the plane, coming back from England, where I had a new grandson who was born, and I got the great pleasure of naming him. And so the Pasuk reports that Hashem spoke to him from the tent of the assembly. And Rashi says that the interesting, that even though Hashem spoke to him, listen to the Rashi, Hashem spoke to him inside the tent of the assembly, where the Holy of Holies was, where the Ten Commandments were. But the voice never, says Rashi, went outside the area of the tent. And the obvious question is, well, maybe it was a small, quiet voice, a still voice that only Moshe heard. Oh no, says Rashi. This is the same voice that's referred to in Tehillim, Kol Hashem B'Koyach. Hashem's voice is incredibly loud. Kol Hashem Hodar Arozim. It splits the cedars of Lebanon. But what is the point of a voice that is so powerful when it's only going to be heard by Moshe inside the Oil Moed, inside the tent of the assembly? This is the question which is asked by Rav Moshe Feinstein in his wonderful sefer, Drosh Moshe. And Rav Moshe Feinstein adds to the question and says that's not the only time when it tells us that a voice spoke loudly but was only heard by a certain amount of people. When the Jewish people are standing at Mount Sinai, later on in the Torah it says that Hashem spoke to Yesh Asher Imono Pohayam, the ones who are with us today, and the ones who are not with us today. That means to say that every single Jewish soul, you and I, who were going to be born millennia later, we were there. But what's the point of being there? If they're going to hear Hashem telling them the mitzvahs that they have to carry out, that's only when you're in the world. And I, 3,500 years later, wasn't in the world then. So what's the point in being there? To hear something which is, as it were, not relevant to me, or not relevant to me yet. And then there's another famous Gemara in Saita, which says that 40 days before a child is even conceived in his mother's womb, a heavenly voice calls out and says, Bas ploni le ploni, this girl's going to marry this boy. Nobody's ever heard that voice. I mean, you're looking for a shidduch, you go to a shadchan, but you don't go and seek heavenly voices unless you're a very strange person. What's the point of having a heavenly voice that nobody hears? Rav Moshe Feinstein says that the answer is to all three questions that really Hashem wants you to hear. The reason you don't hear, that only Moshe heard, is because Moshe wasn't the level to hear. And we're not. But Hashem wants that we are, wants us to become the sort of person who would be able to hear it. And indeed, Rav Moshe Feinstein, in another one of his drushes, says that by learning Talmud, essentially you come to hear what the Torah wants, not literally prophetically, but you get it. It connects with something deep inside you. Yes, it's true, you're not a Moshe Rabbeinu, but don't think Hashem didn't want you to hear. He wants you to hear. Same sort of idea when it comes to a shidduch. You might think it was the shadchan who brought the boy and the girl together. No. The boy and the girl has to realize that the ultimate shadchan, the one who put them together at the get-go, was Hashem, and he wants them to come together again. And even though at Mount Sinai we were disembodied, we didn't have a body, we were little souls floating there, and you could not put it into practice, Hashem's telling you, I still want you to be part of this. There will come a time when you will put this into practice. I'm speaking to you as well. I want you to be the best person you can be in order for that to take place. Which takes us to a little echo of Pesach. And sometimes we're not the best person that we could be. And of course, as you'll know, and you see this more fully in the fuller share, the 35-minute share, which you'll find also on the page, you'll find that there we talk about the Haggadah and how it talks about karpas. Right at the beginning of the Haggadah, we all know you take a piece of a vegetable, something that grows in the ground. Normally it's a potato, dip it in salt water, and then you make the bracha. And so here is something which grows in the ground. The purpose and the function of Egyptian society, their mission was to completely destroy the Jewish people as Jewish people. They did it by welcoming us into Egyptian society. It was a welcome and embrace which we fully the vast majority of Jews welcomed and took. And as a consequence, so many were lost in Mitzrayim. But on this night of Pesach, when it comes to Pesach, it's called Zman Keroseno. It's not the time historically when we go out. It's telling us this time, this moment, in your year, in 2023, the same events that happened then can happen now. And even if you or I am the sort of Jew who really has not done very well as a Jew in the course of a year, maybe even the Yiddish phrase, ich liegt in Dreck, I'm covered in filth and also some negative stuff through the course of the year. Even if I'm like a potato buried under the ground, you can still emerge and be given a place of honor at the Seder plate, on the table of Pesach on this night. It's a nice idea. Hashem wants us to know He calls us to the Shidduch, He calls us to get the Torah, and He calls us from the Almighty, even if Moshe wasn't there to, only Moshe was able to hear it. And He calls us to come back, no matter how dirty we've been during the course of the year. Come back in the Seder night, because now you can clean yourself off. I wish you all a very good Shabbos.